Welcome to Save Your Sanity, help for handling hijackals, those difficult, toxic, and often disturbing people in your life. I'm Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, the Relationship Help Doctor, and I'm here for you. You'll get the insight, skills, strategies, and support to stop tolerating verbal and emotional abuse, whether it's happening now or it happened to you in the past, maybe by a parent, partner, ex, relative, or even a coworker. Time to take life back, to recover and to rediscover you, your values, dreams, desires, and realize them in healthy ways in healthy relationships. I'm so glad you're here. Hello and welcome to Save Your Sanity Relationship Dialogues. This section of our show has individual episodes where I have conversations with experts. And this is an important thing so that I can bring to you different perspectives, different specialties, different angles on what's happening, all the things that we need to think of when we have been impacted or imprinted by a toxic person, a difficult person, a even disturbing person. And we need to know these things because if we don't, we go into the world and we become unwitting prey. And that's what happens to most of us because growing up, we don't know these things. We don't know they're happening to us. They don't know what is being taught to us. We're just taking it all in. So there's nothing to forgive yourself for once you find out that you have been with a hijackal or you have done certain things or been certain ways. Just simply know from this moment onwards, as soon as you wake up, you can then move forward and do things differently, see things in a new light. And this is very important. So this is why I bring this segment to you on relationship dialogues, talks with experts, my friends, my colleagues, other people in my field. So I hope that you enjoy this first one in the dialogues with Johanna Lynn. She's going to talk about inherited family issues. Very important to have a look at. Remember, you can always find me at forrelationshiphelp.com and enjoy this episode. Talk soon. Hello, and welcome to this segment of the Relationship Help Show. So excited. I have my guest here today, Johanna Lynn, and she is from Canada, my homeland. So yay, I always like to have Canadian folks on the show. That's great. And I'm excited that that's going to be our topic today because she brings something very unique. So as you can see, beautiful Johanna sitting there. Do you say Johanna or Johanna?
It's Johanna.
Johanna. Oh, okay, lovely. As you see her, let me just tell you a little bit about her because she has something very, very unique in the way that she approaches things. And she's fascinated by what parents share with their children, the invisible stuff that's passed along in the DNA. And the one thing that we all have in common is that we come from a family. There's none of us who didn't come from a family, even if that's a single parent family. So we've been influenced far more than we know by that, including in our DNA, but also in everything that happened to us. And Johanna offers a powerful way for us to see where the root of the challenges are and then helps people to figure them out. And you use the term inherited family trauma. So let's just start, Johanna, welcoming you to the program. I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to talk about something different. Of course, we're talking about living with toxic and difficult people all the time here on the Relationship Help Show, but we really do have to look at inherited family trauma. And I use that phrase actually, but I'm delighted that you use it as the focus of your work. So what do you do when a high conflict couple comes to you and says, help?
The first thing I do is I want to take a little bit of family history from both sides so that we can make sense of what is pretty much dysfunctional, of where it feels familiar, why it feels right or common in the body to feel disrespected, to be spoken to poorly, whatever the need and want kind of ratio, that push-pull between a couple can be, that are immersed in high conflict. So a lot of times when we can get a little bit of family history, we can step beyond the story. So we want to look at, okay, if you say your mom was highly critical, what was behind that criticism? Why was she always angry? Why was she impatient or, quick to anger? What was that about? So that we get a little bit more understanding around the influences. Because in my years of experience working with couples, our partner shows up exactly as we need them to show us what's unhealed in us. So if we've got that highly critical spouse, it often routes us back to how we remember in our body, likely we were brought up by a highly critical parent.
Mm-hmm. And, Johanna, that's what I call finding yourself comfortably uncomfortable.
Perfect.
That we
Yes,
get to that place where, okay, I don't like it much, but it feels so familiar that I don't expect anything different. And when I don't expect anything different, of course, I don't ask for anything different. And I don't allow myself to be assertive and say, let's do something different.
exactly.
So we recede into our story and our victim or our poor me or our why is this always happening to me? And I don't want to make that sound like you've got a huge problem, but you just retreat into that very familiar place. And that's what I hear you talking about. And when people are with hijackals, those chronically and relentlessly difficult people, toxic people, it becomes even worse because a hijackal will target a person who has that in their family that says, you will put up with this, you will turn yourself into a pretzel and make yourself into a doormat to make me happy. So when you're looking at these new clients and you're looking into their family history, are you looking for those patterns where somebody is used to allowing themselves to be treated poorly, allowing themselves to feel less than? What are you looking for?
So I look at it from a slightly different perspective in that we as children, we look up to our parents. Of course, that's our first love. And let's say we had a really sad mom who wasn't very available to us, or we had a dad who was always at work, and when he did come home, there was no more energy or attention for us. And so often, if we end up in a relationship with someone who's very high conflict, we've been used to looking up towards the parent with this kind of inner question of, who do you need me to be so that you'll love me?
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to hive off this whole arm? Okay, there you go, take it. Just give me a little bit of that attention. So our whole nervous system has been attuned to, even if it's just a little crumb of what I need, I'm going to let that be enough. And so a lot of the times, these two people, they meet at, let's say, a party, and they come together like magnets. It's almost as if a higher part of them knows, okay, we get to work through these unresolved pieces that are sitting inside of us.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things from my work that I'll just put into this conversation
Of course.
is that, it's so complex. It's so complicated. It's simply not simple. Because if I have had that attraction and there are those needs and there are subconscious things happening and abuse that's been normalized for one person, and a hijackal comes in, a person who has pathological things going on with them, they see their moment. But when they come into your practice, it may be different for you. With you're saying you have a different approach. That what do you do when they come in and you say to them, tell me your history, and they give it out, but they don't take any responsibility for the fact that they have this deeply critical or neglectful or abusive situation that they came from, and entertain the notion that it could have something to do with the problem in the relationship?
It's a very powerful question, because we have to look at the reality that there are many people who just do not want to look at the roots of why they do what they do. some of the most painful, habits can come from that place.
Yes.
And so a lot of the times that where I find, even if I'm working with half of the couple, maybe only the wife will come. And the powerful approach is for her to recognize, okay, that's why this feels so familiar. What is it that I need to integrate and understand within myself so that this feels less and less familiar? This feels less and less where I want to be. How do I heal those parts of myself if I'm a puzzle piece that fits in with that? Because we can't force our partner to, look at this or, read this book or attend this therapy session with me. We've got to take full responsibility for our own part inside of it and recognize maybe the spouse who is highly critical, who is high conflict, doesn't want to look at this. My experience with clients that are that way, anger and sadness, they're very much two faces of the same coin. And so there might not be that access to go into vulnerability, to quote unquote look under what's been stuffed in the body, where it just feels easier to be rageful, to be impatient, even if it costs them their relationship, their family. Because in their inner imprint, I call it the family imprint, love equals being let down. Love equals this push-pull of being on a roller coaster ride where some days we're connecting, some days we're at each other's throats. And if it wasn't that way, it just wouldn't be love.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a real readiness that's got to be there for the client, as I'm sure you find in your practice as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, I have come to realize over the years that I've been doing this, Johanna, that there are three kinds of hijackals. They're what I call black hat hijackals, gray hat hijackals, and white hat hijackals. There are people, the black hat hijackals have the DNA markers, they have the brain chemical wash, and they have the abusive background. Yeah. And they only know one way and they're sticking with it. And they, it's just the way they're going to be, and they have no interest in recognizing that or changing. Yeah. And the gray hat hijackals are people who have a little awareness of how they are and what works out in the world. And so they tend to only show their hijackal tendencies from their background, and they may or may not have the other two factors when they're under extreme stress. And so they can manage some of it. And then there are the white hat hijackals. These are the people who are fairly unhappy. They recognize they can't sustain relationships, that they keep hurting people, and they don't want to, but they're kind of like a one-trick pony. They only know one way to be in the world. They only know one way to respond, and that is to take control over something before it takes control over me. And I have that, as you were saying, that deep well of sadness versus rage, the two parts of the same coin, that the rage is so much easier to express than the sadness. And so then they have to, and they're often willing to, and they're a small percentage of these people, but they say, help me. I mean, they cry real tears. Yeah. Black hat hijackals cry crocodile tears at the drop of a hat, but white hat hijackals cry real tears. I don't know why I hurt her. I don't know why I yell at him. I don't want to be like this. Help.
Yes.
So what's your experience with that?
Well, I would have to say that they get to this point where their desire to be loved, kind of gets over that pattern of hurting to get love. And so there's this, I've gone through 2, 3, 4 relationships where the pattern is just too familiar. And oh no, I'm the common denominator. And so until we've hit up against that proverbial wall enough times, am I actually willing, that courageousness to go inside and to really look at what that's all about? So I'd have to agree with you. I do see those distinctions that you've outlined, and that kind of points to their readiness to do the inner work, to be able to show up differently, whether or not the separation remains and we're just talking about co-parenting in a more healthy way, or if there aren't children involved, perhaps the next relationship has a much more healthy tone.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so true for people. You're in a relationship and it has a pattern. And as you were saying, inherited family trauma. You've got all the stuff that you've seen when you were before the age of 2. You've taken in so much into your little being without language. All through your senses, you've got a sense of who you are, whether you're important, whether you're loved, whether you're valued, whether you're validated, whether you're wanted. And then you're watching the play out among the parents and the family dynamics, and you're getting a sense of how you fit. And then maybe you got marginalized. Maybe the only way that you could ever do anything at all was to disappear into the walls and then come out fighting. Or that you went into a rageful stage where you stayed a 3-year-old having tantrums every time you didn't get your own way. And you're still doing that at 36, you know? Yeah. And these things have a way of just, maybe they look a little different, but it's the same thing. And for most hijackals, particularly black hat hijackals, we know that they're stopped at an emotional space of, no more than 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
Because of all this trauma.
Exactly. A lot of pain that kind of keeps it stuffed. And I think what's important to add there is that it is a sort of new understanding of science in epigenetics, this concept of, it might not even be our own trauma, our own experience that has us replay these patterns. You could think of it that we're all a little bit like a computer, and we're born sharing an operating system with our parents and our grandparents. We're kind of running those same programs. And so for those people that are really stuck in replicating that pain, those are often the first places that I'll look. Did your father commit a crime and he didn't have, what's the word I'm looking for? Didn't, go to jail, or it wasn't balanced? Did your father or did your grandfather go away to war? And there's all kinds of guilt stuck in at the soul level that then carries down to subsequent generations. So that can be sometimes some light that is shed on these really stuck, harsh patterns.
Mm-hmm. And I love that, what you said, because it's very important for us to realize there could be unresolved things in the family system that have kind of spread to us, the little DNA contagion, if you will.
That's a good way to say it.
And they're not even ours, but we feel them and we operate from them. And that's important. I know I come from, my father's family was an entire layer of hijackals. There was not one of them that was not a hijackal. And my father was an extreme passive aggressive, and that was his response to it. So when you've had a family systems issue or an inherited family trauma, as you say, we get to choose our response to it consciously or unconsciously. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that with your work as a clinical hypnotherapist, that dealing with the subconscious and unconscious patterns plays a big part. Am I right?
It really does. I think we can't have one without the other. I'm very much a full picture thinker. And our inner images, they really run our lives. And so what I mean by that is, if we hold the inner image that, gosh, no matter what I could do for my mom, it was never enough, or, no matter what mood my dad was in, he would always be insensitive or critical to me. So if that's the inner image, it's as if we go out into the world and life shows us those same themes over and over again.
Right. And that's something we really want to talk about. So we're going to take a break and come back with Johanna Lynn. You can learn more about her at Johanna Lynn. And now I'm saying it with an H because I want you to spell it with an H. Johannalynn.ca. Because remember, she's Canadian. So JohannaLynn.ca. You can find that. She has a free book there for you, the Be Good to Yourself, a free gift. And you will explore that and learn more about her. I'm so glad you spent this time with me today. I hope you heard something that touched your heart and empowered you to move forward. You can have the life and relationships that you most want, and that begins with you, within you, today. I'm always here for you. Life can get better, and you heard that from me, the Relationship Help Doctor. I'm Rhoberta Shaler, and I work with clients throughout the world through video conferencing. We can talk. So learn more at forrelationshiphelp.com, forrelationshiphelp.com, or visit me on YouTube at For Relationship Help. Join me for next week's show.